the October 16th, 2023 Goffstown Select Board meeting. This evening we have Selectman Craig on the phone, so we're going to go ahead and start with the roll call. Jim?
Yes. Here.
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 All right. And now if you can all please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First up, we have the acceptance and corrections of minutes from the 10-2 public and non-public meeting.
Make a motion, we accept the 10-2-23 public and non-public minutes of the meeting with corrections if need be.
Second. No, go ahead, Caution.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Collis. Any questions or comments? Corrections? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Jim?
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
Great. And for announcements this evening, we first have from our town administrator, the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services has announced the annual fall drawdown of lakes and ponds controlled by dams owned by New Hampshire DES. Glen Lake on the Piscataquag River in Goffstown will be drawn down on Saturday, October 28th. Glen Lake will be drawn down 1.5 feet from the full level. The depth of drain down is listed above is not from the current level, it is from the normal full pond level. Lake drawdowns are conducted each fall to reduce winter ice damage to shoreline properties and to reduce spring flooding. Drawdowns also give property owners the opportunity to conduct any necessary repairs to their waterfront property, provided they first secure a permit from the NHDES Wetlands Bureau at 603-271-2147. And also, I just want to extend a thank you to all the town departments that participated in the pumpkin regatta this weekend. We had all hands on deck, including our very own chief of police out there conducting traffic detail. So it was a group effort, and it was a great event. Anyone want to add anything?
No, I thought it was fine. I think everybody. I thought the idea of closing Main Street was excellent. We heard nothing but compliments about the whole thing. So I think that worked out perfectly.
Very well received.
Yeah.
Derek, do you want to go ahead and get started on the administrator's report?
Page
Sure.
18.
Thank you. On page 18, you have your committee meetings for this week. Tuesday night at 6 p.m., the Sewer Commission will be having a workshop in this room.
Okay.
On Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m., the Library Board of Trustees will have a meeting on the 3rd floor of the library.
I'll be there.
7 p.m., Parks and Recs Commission will be at the Parks and Rec Center.
I'll be there.
And you will have a regular meeting next Monday to continue with budget presentations. And then your next page, you have your consent agenda. You have an employee status report for an IT system administrator, separation during probationary period. You have right to inter for West Lawn Expansion Cemetery, section W1, lot 35. You have a vehicle certificate of title for a Ford Explorer, which needs a signature of the chair, and then a proclamation for an Eagle Scout award that needs a signature of the entire board.
Motion to approve the consensus agenda as presented this evening.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Peter. Any questions or comments?
I think you have to sign both as the seller and the buyer.
Yes, because it's a
So
transfer
you
from.
only signed one.
Oh, I don't think I signed any of them yet.
Oh, I thought somebody signed something on the car. You
We'll
got to
double
sign
check.
both.
We'll double check. Any other questions, comments? Okay, roll call vote. Jim?
Yes.
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 That's all you have for the town administrator's report tonight.
We still have a couple minutes before public comment. Is everyone here for the appointment?
Yep. Yes.
5 minutes probably isn't enough time for that.
No.
So we'll go ahead and move on to the select board discussion for new business. Does anyone have anything for new business this evening?
I don't-
Okay. And we don't have anything pending for old business, but we can go ahead and check on the action matrix. Was there any update on the grade measurements for the police station? Chief? No? Okay. All right. And the village pedestrian bridge?
Yeah, they had volunteers at,
River Goddard?
Yep, it was very well attended both days. We handed out a number of flyers that were approved, informational flyers, handed out 60 of those. We printed up 250, so we handed out about a quarter of them,
Okay.
which I consider to be pretty good for a first step.
Okay. The request for the on-call stipends, do we have any?
we'll have an
No
update
changes
at
to
the
that?
next meeting. The compensation
For-
analysis vendor, the consultant did get some information back, and we just got that back this afternoon. So we've got to go through it, and we'll have that for you at your next meeting.
Great. And we're still working on the Invest New Hampshire Municipal Per Unit Grant.
Yes.
Did we hear anything back from the developer?
They're very thankful for the support from the select board, and I'll be working with the town attorney to have an agreement for the transfer of those funds.
Great. Yeah.
I have something that's not on the action matrix, it probably should be in, or come in the old business. Have we come up with a policy or any from work from home?
The town already has a remote work policy, but I think the board was looking for a little bit more in-depth on work from home. We don't have a draft yet, but I can add that to the action matrix and bring that forward at a future meeting.
Yeah, so we
let's
keep
add
our
that.
eye on it.
Yep.
Okay, any updates on the L-CHIP grant? I know we had the final submission.
Yep, we did the final submission, and their review panel was meeting these first weeks of October, and they'll make a recommendation to the L-CHIP awarding panel here soon.
So we should hear about that.
Probably in November.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yep.
When do we anticipate setting the tax rate,
Hopefully at your next meeting.
which is next Monday?
Next Monday. We do have one last thing, and then we've got to see where we are in the queue. That's really going to be the dependent item, but we should be able to have at least a draft ready for you at your next meeting.
Okay. And then out-of-service vehicles, any update on engine 2, chief? Your fire engine out of service? You, Chief Murray, sorry.
Engine 2 is the only one still out of service. Hopefully, may come back this week. It's a parts issue.
Okay, it's still it. Okay, thank you. All right, so at this time, I'm gonna go ahead and read the procedures for public comment. So this is the procedures of the Goffstown Select Board and Committee's appointment by the Select Board in public participation in board meetings. Each person desired to speak during public comment shall state their name, street, and if not a Goffstown resident, his or her town, and shall fill out the roster provided by the town administrator, which is sitting right up on that front table. The presiding officer shall schedule appropriate public comment time for Goffstown residents at the beginning and end of each regular meeting. The presiding officer and at his or her discretion may allow others to speak on specific topics. Public comment speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. Agenda appointments with the board may be made for a regular meeting through the town administrator for town-related business. The presiding officer has the discretion to schedule a different date and time. Unless a concern is expressed at the public comment period, or if an agenda appointment item is of an urgent matter, the board may take up concerns at the next regularly scheduled meeting under old business. Special board meetings shall not have public comment nor agenda appointments unless the appointment is for the purpose of special meeting. Yeah.
Point of clarification, just, we have an appointment at 6:15. If public comment goes longer than that, do we stop public comment and start with our appointment?
I think it'd probably be better to get through all the public comment and then take the appointment after
Okay,
that.
just want clarification.
Thank you. All right, so at this time, we'll go ahead and open it up for public comment. Is there anyone here who would wish to speak at public comment? Yes, come on up.
My name is Jennifer Valley. I live at 12 Shirley Park Road. I am here to represent a group who submitted a formal complaint made against Pamela Boyer, a member who serves on the Parks and Rec Committee in Goffstown. The Parks and Rec Department has a clear code of conduct and a standard of behavior to which its leaders should aspire, and which includes open, respectful, and courteous attitudes in dealing with the public, avoiding the appearance of impropriety, giving each townsperson fair and equal treatment, just to name a few. Documents have been submitted to the Parks and Rec Commissioner, which includes this complaint along with text and clear evidence that Ms. Boyer has not held herself to this code of conduct and has not represented our Parks and Rec Department in a professional and courteous manner. Although there were multiple examples submitted, I wanted to point out two statements she has made from that list that to me stood out in their content. One was a personal text to my friend, Goffstown resident and New Hampshire Rep. Joe Alexander. In the text to Joe, referencing his and other state reps in our town recent voting record in the State House, Ms. Boyer said, "You may have never spoken to," I'm going to leave this woman's name out of what I'm about to say out of respect for the family, "your actions as well as your peers' actions in the State House had social consequences that impacted her decision to commit suicide. Do better, please," end quote. This statement crossed such a serious line. Beyond just being unprofessional, it was hateful and malicious. The second is a social media comment in which she said to a townsperson, "Did you know that the only child in attendance last night," referencing the high school representative at school board meeting, "left in tears while adults in our community were openly spewing anti-LGBT sentiments. What a wonderful example," end quote. I and many of those who signed the complaint were at that meeting. The child she refers to exited at the beginning of public comments. The adults in attendance and the ones who spoke at the school board meeting were not doing anything of the kind, but were Goffstown taxpayers, parents, and grandparents who spoke respectfully at the meeting. They were concerned that information in the middle school bulletin board where their children and grandchildren attend had information on it that was not appropriate for their 10 to 13-year-olds. Ultimately, the superintendent felt the same and had much of the material on the board removed. Many of these families in attendance or spoke at the meeting use the Parks and Recs programs and activities on a regular basis. And to make such a false and harmful statement is a poor reflection from one of its committee members. Ms. Boyer needs to choose representing Goffstown on our Parks and Rec programs with decorum, integrity, and follow the code of conduct. And if that is not possible for her, she needs to resign her position from this town commission, or the select board needs to step in and make that decision for her. None of these people want to be here tonight, but we've had enough. If we really want Goffstown to have no hate here, let it start with our town board and committee members. Thank you.
Anyone else who wishes to speak at public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment. And up now we have an appointment with John DeLude. Come on up. And if you could please introduce yourselves for the record.
Yep, I'm John DeLude, and this is my brother Matthew.
Yes, I'm Matthew DeLude, Bernstein Shore, and we represent John, but we're also here for moral support on his request for the ability to put in a house on the Class 6 road. This has been before this board before. Thank you all tonight for being here and for hearing my brother on this. It's been before the board, it's been to planning board for comment as well. It's also been to the ZBA for the variances. And as I understand the last meeting that the select board had, they were looking for planning board comments and fire department comments. And we've gotten those fire department comments. He's taken a look at the list. It looks like most of it's already done. There may be a slight piece with, I believe it was a 16-inch.
16-foot.
16 foot, yeah, that's right. That might need a little bit more, but he can certainly get it done before the certificate of occupancy would go through for that. And, we received the planning board's comment. We appreciate the planning board's input into this, and, with all due respect to the planning board, the issues that the planning board had that they were tossing around in that deliberation were just not what's before us today. We're talking about laser-focused specific requests related to the ability to build this house on the Class 6 road. And the considerations that the planning board was going into were for a potential future Christmas tree farm that my brother has no plans on creating now. He couldn't even do it if he wanted to. The trees aren't mature enough. It would be 5 to 10 years before they would ever get to the point where they might be mature enough for that. And frankly, given the comments, we were actually just talking about this, given the comments, he's thinking probably what'll end up happening is he'll end up moving the trees to another location and selling them somewhere else, because it sounds like that road, something about that road particularly has historic significance, and there's a lot of concern there. So he doesn't want to create any waves. He doesn't want to cause any troubles. He's having a wonderful time in, ingratiating himself into that community. His neighbors are very receptive to him. I understand Mr. Keating, Greg Keating, is with us over here.
As well as Jake Tisdale.
And Jake Tisdale. They're both neighbors. Greg already has the ability to maintain this Class 6 road, and he's been assisting, my brother has, with that road. I don't know if anyone's had an opportunity to take a look at that road, but it's pretty amazing. It's better than some Class 5 roads that I've seen before. I ride a Jeep around sometimes, and I'll catch a road that's pretty gnarly for a Class 5. It's a really well-constructed road. He's doing a great job on it. We can talk to the fire department if we want to about whether or not it meets the requirements or what else needs to be done on it. But he's going to be an excellent steward of that road. He's going to take really good care of it. And we appreciate your time on this. And we ask that you approve this application so that he's able to put that house in and relocate from Merrimack to Goffstown. He'd rather be part of this community than in Merrimack for a whole list of reasons, not the least of which the people that he's already met here. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any other comments you want to share on.
No, I agree. Yeah.
So if anyone has any questions, we can answer any questions anyone has on this.
I'll ask you a question.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure what you classify as a good road, but I was down there with my Buick today, and I had to turn around about 100 yards in and get back out of there because there was some pretty good holes in there. And
Oh, no.
yeah, so I don't know what you consider a good road, but I didn't think it was that very good.
Oh, correct.
And then I also noticed the signs are screwed up there. When you come out of the dirt part, when you're hitting Kennedy Hill Road, there's a do not enter sign there.
Yep.
So, right? And then there's also a sign that has the arrow with the circle on it for no turn, pointing down Longbrook. So when you get to that spot, you can't, technically you're not can't go anywhere because the signs are messed up.
Right.
And I'm sure if you've been up there in the last few days, somebody's noticed that and hasn't bothered to fix it, so.
The arrow sign, honestly, I've never even seen the arrow sign. It's just the do not enter on the left sign that I've seen. So
And on the right, there's an arrow sign that says you can't go down Longbrook, so.
There's the only other sign that I've seen there is just a post. There's no sign on it unless that's been changed as of maybe today. I mean, we've been down there today and go down there every day.
I know that one of the do not enter signs got taken down by a kid about 2 weeks ago, so.
And then neither one of you have noticed the sign, the square sign that has the circle with the arrow going through it? No?
No.
I wish I had my phone, if I had my other phone with me, I'd show you a picture of it, I said today.
No, I haven't seen that.
So-
No, but we would come up and we see the do not enter and we take a left into Longbrook unless we would like that to change. Because we do live on Kennedy Hill Road, so we would have, that would be our right of way. The holes that you're talking about there, so we had been maintaining it up until my first meeting where I realized that I needed to have a waiver myself. So I haven't been maintaining the road in almost 6 months. But that road is a very smooth gravel road when I am maintaining it. I just need to get that waiver signed, the same waiver that I have. I've been trying to work underneath through my abutting neighbor, Greg Keating. So that, I'd love to be able to continue that. Pretty much when I started the mini process, I believe it's August, almost into the beginning of September, I put a halt on everything until I could get these approvals in writing.
And these are things that he's absolutely happy to address before any certificate of occupancy is issued. So, the goal is to make sure that the road is perfectly fine for certainly a Class 6 level. But whatever requirements are in, I believe it's
It's a fire department's
yeah, the fire
regulations.
department sent a memo to the planning board. It looks like the date on it is 10/12/23, but I think it was sent a little bit earlier than that. But he's perfectly happy to comply with all of this, and he's willing to do all of it. And if some of it's falling short, by all means, get out there with him and point it out. He'll get it fixed up and in shape before the certificate of occupancy is issued. Absolutely.
Any other questions?
I refer to call us, as the planning board turned it down.
Yeah, the planning board had lengthy conversations on this, as you know. And it wasn't revolving around the building itself. It was around the use of the land and whether or not it would constitute what we call scattered and premature development, because clearly there's a plan to use this property as a retail Christmas tree operation. So the planning board had concerns as to, is there adequate safe passage? Is there adequate parking? How are we gonna control that? What are we gonna do when we get those 4 or 5 weekends of the year when people are showing up en masse to either go look at Christmas trees, cut their Christmas trees, haul them off the property, when you've got all of those people and vehicles and children and pets there, and how you're gonna provide for safety to make sure that is all adequately addressed. And that's the function of a planning board, is to plan for future developments, and that's what we're talking about here. And so we just weren't, the planning board was not clear that that was all adequately addressed.
Right.
That's kind of the Reader's Digest version, but, because this occurred over several meetings.
Yeah, and we do agree with that, you know, and that's why we've tabled having the public come down to the site at all. So far, the Christmas trees, though we did plant a lot of them, they're 3-inch plugs. It's very minimal investment in comparison to what we're doing to try to get out there as a residential. So if it meant that we couldn't do Christmas trees down there and have the public come there, then that's the route that we would go in order to make sure that we're able to move forward as a family on that and have it be a family farm. That's our only intent right now, and I think that if we were to do something along the lines of whether it was Christmas trees, nursery stock, or anything like that, we would later address that with the planning board as something that, you know, we're intending to have come with the public. I know even Green Thumb at the bottom had to go through a strict procedure of what they needed to do to allow public to come to their business front. Right now, that's not what we're intending to do, and I've made that clear on every meeting that I've been to, is that we're not to sell Christmas trees to the public on site as of right now, especially considering that we've all evaluated it and realized that, you know, two-way traffic, tons of people all at once is not the right thing to do. You know, right now we're looking for basically a glorified driveway. We can meet the standards the fire department laid out at that 16 feet. It's almost there. It's a little bit too thin in some spots, but that's easily fixed to that standard. The wider standard of what you would want for like a class 5 and having traffic like that is going to be extensive, and it would take a long time. And if I'm going to be doing that personally, it could take me 10 years plus, you know, as these Christmas trees are growing, if I was even to attempt something like that, it's just out of my means. So right now, the focus is getting down there, living there, maintaining the land itself, on a personal, family status, I guess you could say.
Right, and that's why, and I think that's an excellent synopsis of what happened at the planning board and how they were approaching it, and that's why, with all due respect to the planning board, we just don't think that that's particularly relevant to what we're looking at here. If it needs to be put before for a site plan review, before a cut-to-own Christmas tree farm is opened there, that's something absolutely he's willing to do in the future. For now, all we're talking about is he wants to get himself a residence there so that he can make the move. He can get a good price on his house in Merrimack right now. He can move in here. He can be in part of this community, and then later on, if they decide they're going to do a Christmas tree farm, they can go for a site plan review.
So as long as we're perfectly clear about separating the two issues, the single-family residence versus any long-term plan, whatever that may be.
Yes.
Maybe Christmas trees now, and maybe something totally different 5 years from now. Who
Yep.
knows?
Right, if he, I'm
But
sorry.
I can tell you, as someone who's managed a retail Christmas tree farm for over 15 years, it gets crazy. I mean, it gets insane with the amount of people, adults, children, dogs, farm equipment, tractors, trailers hauling things back and forth. There needs to be some thought put into how that operation is going to be run.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we do agree.
Yeah, absolutely. It's basically
Okay.
like you're compressing a bunch of traffic into a couple of weekends.
Absolutely.
It's crazy. Yeah, so you got to think that all through, and
Yeah.
we're fine with that. Any you know, anything like that, you know, a cut-to-own Christmas
Yeah.
tree farm, whatever, that's something he's happy to do later on when the time comes, and not now.
I think as long as that's made crystal clear.
So call us the motion, in the suggested motion, does that meet what you've,
Hang on.
Well, if he's willing,
Page 3.
I'm sorry, what page am I?
if he's willing to
Oh, right.
put into the record that at this time there is no plans for a Christmas tree lot or any kind of a retail business there. Maybe not just a Christmas tree lot, like you said, Collis, it could be, who knows what, 5 years from now.
Yeah. So is the,
The highlighted portion is the motion.
Yeah, I
If
see
the
it.
board concurs with issuing a building permit on this Class 6 highway, And I would just ask that I listed 4 conditions below as well.
And how about the condition that they can't have a retail business there?
That would be an additional condition that if the board wishes to add, you could add that.
So it's the building permit for a single-family residential structure. To be clear, that's what we're talking about. One house, one residential structure. Is that right?
Yes, I believe the description that I've heard was essentially a barn with living quarters in it. That's the way it was sort of described.
Yeah.
Basically, but yeah, but one living structure for his personal use. It's not a retail establishment. It's his home, basically.
Yep.
With storage, I assume.
Well, I think the motion ought to be clarified slightly to say approve the issuance of a requested building permit for a single-family residence only, subject to the following conditions. And then we also need to say any future use or development of the property would need to come back before the town for site plan approval. And that needs to be clear, that we're just differentiating, because I have no problem letting build a house up there and enjoying his property. Absolutely, go for it. So let's get the building permit, let's put the house up and make it clear that that's all we're issuing the waivers for.
Right, now, just to be clear, it also includes the agriculture uses that have already been approved by the ZBA. So he's
I'm allowed to farm there, right?
right. I mean, he's been farming on the property and engaged in agriculture.
And that's our intent too.
Yeah.
I mean, my wife and kids, they want to get animals, they want to get chickens and stuff, and so we want to be out there farming for sure. To have people there, we're willing to table that for sure, but we definitely want to be able to use our land. You know, we don't need 60 acres of non-used land.
Well, I don't see a sign down along Brook that says eggs for sale pointing in that way.
Potholes fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would basically it. Maybe it makes just sense that any future retail use must go before a planning board for site plan
Site plan
approval.
review, yeah.
Yeah, site plan review. I think that makes, and then that'll capture any kind of retail use.
That was my,
I think that's kind of the standard as is. I mean, if I was to run any kind of business out of any location, I think I would need to go to the planning board and get a real planning board drawing drawn up and probably have it engineered, I would imagine. So
we
it's-
just want to be clear from the start, because we know, we've all experienced how these things can assume a life of their own, and before you know it, it's going off in different tangents.
Yep.
If you're clear right from the get-go, then there's no real or perceived expectations as we move forward.
I think that's only fair.
Jim, did you have any questions?
No, I think they've been addressed with the taking out the retail issue. That was my concern. I think I get it. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Nope. Collis, do you want to make that amended motion?
Did you capture it, Gail? Okay, do I have to reiterate the amended motion? You okay?
Do you want me to read it?
Sure, if
The
you don't
whole
mind.
thing, or just the part you
Yeah,
added?
the amended, the whole thing, please.
You just added,
Well, no, the whole thing. So motion,
made a motion to approve the issuance of the requested building permit for a single-family residential structure only on a Class 6 portion of Kennedyville Road, map 5, lot 43, subject to the following conditions. Waiver of municipal liability for a Class 6 highway building permit pursuant to RSA 67441. IC 2 and 3 must be signed and recorded prior to issuance of any building permit. Construction is subject to all building and life safety codes as determined by the building inspector and fire department respectively. The street address, house number will be determined by the Goffstown Fire Department. Construction is subject to applicable impact fees, and any future retail use on the lot would have to return to the select board for approval.
thank you, Gail.
Is that good?
That's the
Is
motion.
it a select board or?
Yeah, you want a planning board, don't you?
I think the
Or both?
clearest way is it would need to return to the town. It may be that they just need to go to planning board.
Yep.
If there were gonna be additional structures that may involve
Yep.
the select board as well.
I agree, if we just identified it as the town for any required approvals.
Gail, can you make that change for us, please, in the amended motion?
So,
Okay, so motion.
is it on-site retail use? I just want to make sure that it's like, because if he
It's on-
takes something away and Bourbon sells it somewhere else, that's not a problem. We're concerned about the public coming to it. Right.
Right.
That's the main concern. Okay,
Yeah. I'm
great.
just thinking if product comes off of it, let's say
Okay,
you.
sorry, we
make
have a
budget.
motion on the floor. Motion by Collis.
I'll second his
Okay,
motion.
seconded by Mark. Any other questions or comments? Okay, roll call vote, Jim?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you for sticking through the process.
Oh, absolutely. No, thank you for all your hard work.
But there are processes in.
No, we totally understand. It's important to do it right.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Very much.
Starting with the budget now? Is that what we're doing?
Yes, Derek, do you want to do the overhead and administration first, or do you want Danielle to come up? It's up to you.
No, I can go over the quick overview. So the board, you have your department head level budget binders in front of you. If you go to tab number 1, behind tab number 1 you have an overview of the department head budget, and then immediately behind there you have some notes that I've prepared. I do want to point out that currently the appropriations side is up a little over $2,400,000 on the appropriation side. And we also expect that the estimated general fund revenues are down a little bit by about $300,000. So that leads to an increase in the net required local tax effort that would need to be collected next fall. Some of the key factors I wanted to point out, department heads are proposing the same levels of service as we are currently providing. There are no new positions in the budget, and it includes all funded positions from this year's current budget. We did plan for an increase on health rates and dental rates, and we received confirmation late this afternoon that the percentages used here are the increases that we will be seeing. So there's a 12.8% increase on health rates and a 4.7% increase on dental rates, which amounts to about a $500,000 increase in the insurance department. There is an increase in the CIP budget of about $640,000. And then we also had an increase in commodities, so fuel, heating oil, electrical supply that amounted to about $115,000.
Derek, does the decrease in short-term life and long-term make any impact on the increase to medical and dental?
No, not really, because they're such, they're significantly smaller amounts. Sorry, Jim.
No, I made that point to myself this afternoon. I was just agreeing with you. Sorry.
That's right. On your next page, again, I've broken it down here into personnel costs. We do have one active CBA that is included in your operating budget. That's the the professional firefighters CBA. That goes through the end of 2024. We have 3 expiring CBAs, and right now those are only placeholders in the special article section of $1 each. We have included a non-union steps for those that are eligible, as well as a matrix adjustment, with the understanding that we are finishing up the non-union compensation analysis with the chosen contractor, and that you may wish to implement that in lieu of a matrix adjustment. I mentioned insurance earlier. Yes, short-term disability, long-term and life did decrease slightly, and we'll have updates of Primex as well at your next meeting, because those came in this afternoon. For warrant articles, there is, from CIP, there was a request for $250,000 deposit into the Fire Apparatus Capital Reserve Fund. In the past, the board has elected to take that from, to use unassigned fund balance to do that. We did not make that assumption. So that is included as part of the increase. The library trustees have requested a Goffstown Public Library Capital Reserve Fund in the amount of $200,000. They made that vote earlier in July. We've also, in the department head level, we would be asking you to establish a police radio and dispatch capital reserve fund for the maintenance of the new radio system, and that would be a reduction in your revenue by $130,000. Basically, those dispatch fees that you're currently collecting that go to the general fund, as was presented about a month ago. It's our recommendation that those go into a dedicated fund for the maintenance of the new radio system, as well as any dispatch equipment that's used to service those contracts. We'll also be speaking with you at a meeting next week, requesting to modify a share of the cable revenue. Currently, the GTV revolving fund receives 40% of the funds that we receive from Comcast. It will be my recommendation that you increase that to 100%, which would be a reduction of just short of $200,000 on the general fund. Right now, GTV is at, they are operating at a slight deficit right now because the cable franchise fees are not increasing. They've actually started to slightly decrease. So the idea would be to provide them the full amount of those funds so that they can continue to operate and purchase the equipment that they need.
When is that contract up, the current agreement?
It is expired, and we'll be bringing the revised contract to you next week for approval.
The school pay portion of that?
They pay for one full-time employee, so they reimburse the town for one of our full-time video technicians over there. So I think it's called the PEG Access or Education Access.
Have we tried to hit them up for any more? No.
I think they're paying their share for
Are they?
what's for that portion. I know that we are looking at some other revenue sources as well for GTV as well. And then Crispin House and Main Street articles have not been included in the department head level, but I do anticipate that you will receive requests from my conversations with at least Main Street on that item. And then below that you have the commodities. But I think the big thing to focus on is really until we get the tax rate set, either at the next meeting or in the meeting on the 30th, to really look at that increase in what we predict would be the requirement to what you need to raise taxes. It's pretty significant right now, you know, where the department head level is.
All right, let's jump in. Who's up first?
I am up first under admin. So if you go behind tab 2. So again, the admin budget, we have no new positions. However, we do have all of the funded positions from the 2023 budget remain in here. There is an increase of an overall budget for admin from $3,011,042 to $3,347,373. A large portion of that is a new request. This is for contracted services in our IT department. I'm recommending that we seek out supplemental support to include 24/7 network monitoring, incident response, email monitoring, as well as some expanded end user support hours. There are many companies out there that provide this level of support model. The number of incidents that we are currently monitoring is continuing to grow. We actually had training with cybersecurity personnel a couple weeks ago. All the department heads did in IT. And I think we need to support our existing IT staff with somebody that can watch it on a 24/7 basis. And if there is some type of breach or some type of incident, they can lock it down quicker than somebody that is in, you know, off hours. So that's the biggest new item that's in the budget. Not included in the admin portion, but in CIP, we do have 2 CIP projects.
Derek, can I just ask before we move on to CIP? I have one question. The $3,347,373, what does that equate to as far as percentage increase?
It's an 11% increase.
Thank you.
Most of that increase, again, is in our information technology. That increase, they're about $240,000. Again, 150 for that, but then on the next page, I'll get into IT a little bit, but the cost of software and hardware has gone up considerably since COVID. And then we've also got 4 elections next year, so we have an increase there as well.
Thank you.
In terms of CIP, we have 2 requests. One, we budgeted $50,000 for 5 new ballot counting devices, and that will be subject to the approval by the Ballot Law Commission. We're still waiting for the Secretary of State's office for that. And then in terms of information or for IT, again, we would be looking to refresh our server virtualization. This is all of our virtual server infrastructure. This is all of our internally hosted applications and databases. They run 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and they have a replace schedule of every 7 years. We're at that time period, and Microsoft licensing is running out on these. So we need to update the servers as well as the licensing so that we can stay compliant with the police department, FBI, those kind of things. And then on the next page, I've just broken it down. Town hall is largely, our budget is largely driven by personnel. As you can see there, you can kind of see the increase since 2020. It has become a slightly smaller percentage of our budget as IT continues to grow. What we've really seen is computer hardware has increased 67% since 2020. And computer software has increased by 58% since 2020. When another department proposes new software, it's budgeted in their department in year 1, but then year 2 and forward budgets, it moves over into admin under IT. So we do that so that any renewals or any upgrades are not lost and IT can start to manage that program. And then also, in terms of hardware replacements with those increases, we do a 3-year schedule for replacement of phones and tablets. Currently, they have 55 that they service townwide. A 4-year replacement schedule for desktops, laptops, and those terminals that are in police cruisers. They have 172. They have a 5-year replacement of 170 monitors and a 6-year replacement of over 40 printers and scanners townwide. Another big cost is now that Microsoft has gone to a subscription basis rather than buying a license every 5 to 7 years. We pay a monthly fee, and that fee now is budgeted at just over $41,000 a year for townwide. So that's really the overview. I don't know how the board would like, if you want to start going line by line or have an opportunity to look at those.
I'd like the opportunity to at least take a look at it.
Yeah, I agree. So Derek, can you walk through the wage increases that are in here? It's just the step and the COLA increase as well?
Yes, there is a step, and then there is right now, there's a 3% matrix adjustment for non-union employees. Townwide, when you take out the Goffstown Public Library, because Goffstown Public Library has done similar matrix adjustments, but they've always been a year behind the town. So when we take out the library, townwide, that cost is $72,000. And again, with the compensation analysis, we're starting to see results and be able to share those draft reports with you on, you may have, rather than adjusting a matrix, you may be moving to a whole new matrix.
Different plan.
Yeah, different plan. So we have the ability to break those out completely.
Derek, on page 1 of 28, line 450-30.
Yeah.
those consulting services, did those move somewhere else?
No, they did not. That was we budgeted $50,000 for the compensation analysis. So we saw that as a one-time project that no longer needs to be in there.
Okay, thank you.
Question, if I could.
Go ahead, Jim.
Page 8 of 28. I'm just looking at the year-to-date totals throughout here. You still have about $1 million to spend in the next 3 months. Is that unusual, that there's that much left unspent at this time of the year? And I know it's broken down throughout the pages before.
Yeah, Jim, can I ask Danielle on the timing of our health trust? Do you know if that includes 9 months worth of billing for health trust, or is it potentially maybe only 8? Okay, so the biggest line in there, the benefit line, it has a year-to-date of $1.6 million. That really only has 8 bills in, so we have 4 more bills coming in. And as you can see, they're closer to $200,000 each. So we'd have another considerable amount to come out as part of the last 4 bills of the year.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you.
And the other thing is, what we do is, for budgeting purposes for insurance, we budget based on the employer share that's in the personnel plan or in a contract, a CBA, and we do our best to see what the employees are going to be taking. We haven't done open enrollment yet, but we know what people have historically taken, and anybody that is maybe started a family, so they're moving from a 2-person plan, we anticipate them moving to a family plan. So we try and take that into account and put all that in there.
Okay, so it'll be close by the end of the year. Okay.
Yes, it'll be much closer. If you look at the year prior, 2022, where we budgeted just over $2.5 million in benefits and we spent $2,268,000, that would be much more typical. Again, we have a savings because we do have employees that opt out, and we've got those in there, and then just turnover, natural turnover. You have some people that take smaller plans that are budgeted. So there tends to be savings in there, but we are starting to get much closer to that budgeted amount.
Ask one more question?
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
That 12% rise in healthcare costs, is that fairly typical? I can't remember. Or is that seems like a pretty high jump, and
Up and down, up and
It's not
down.
19, that's all I know.
So it is in the very back of your binders behind tab 10, we've provided you with the public hearing that Health Trust held on September 28th that explains why they saw such a big spike. To summarize it in a couple of sentences, nobody was going to get health care when COVID came out, and in 22 and 23, which is what they're looking at for these rates, they had a huge spike in people actually going in and going to have procedures done or take care of themselves. So I think we're seeing that hit. Last year we had a very minimal increase. We are part of the risk pool, so we are protected from huge increases, but I do know 12.8% was the average. Heard from at least one town that had a 25% increase, so it varies depending on your people.
okay, thank you.
Derek, I'm going to ask the same question about consulting in the planning and zoning and the building and health inspection sections.
Yes, so in planning and zoning, this year we had budgeted for for impact fees, reviews, and I think it was maybe not your last meeting, but the meeting prior to that, you approved the contract for that.
I don't think you were here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was the last one in September. The board approved the contract for that, so that was a one-time. And then under building and health, that one, For consulting services, we had maintained a level in case we ever had to bring somebody in or pay another community to cover building services. We're gonna be re-advertising that second position so that we hopefully have two people that can cover each other, and maybe even potentially provide that service to, Ware, New Boston, or Dunbarton.
So, well, we didn't have anybody in that position this year, and we didn't have anybody in HR pretty much. As those funds being returned to the budget?
They would be returned in terms of fund balance at the end of this year.
Right.
Yes.
Those are all the questions I have for now.
Well, until we go through it
Yeah,
line by
so we're
line.
good. Anyone else?
I need a ruler.
Okay, thank you, Derek.
Are we
And
going through
then,
the other departments, or?
Well, tonight we have Public Works and then also the library.
And then you'll
On
have
the
the other,
schedule.
you'll have the other departments next week.
Right. So the intent is that everyone will review and we'll go through line by line. at the
Well, that's what I'm
following
saying, I
meeting.
don't know why. Okay, go ahead. No. So we probably should have just gone line by line first and then have them come in, but no.
No, we already started.
Oh, that's fine. They're here now.
Adam, you're up.
Madam Chair, I don't know if the library has a few people here with them, if they want to go first and get out of here.
I mean, if you're volunteering to stay late, okay.
Thank you, you're my favorite.
Until he needs the fire chief or the police chief, then he'll be the favorite. You know how that works, Diane.
Library's on tab 7.
Tab 7 this year. Hi, everybody.
Evening.
Hello.
My handout is the first thing in your binder.
You're at tab 7.
Tab 7
Right.
for the library this year. The first sheet, and I do have Kathy Coughlin here with me in case I can't answer any questions. She's our vice chair. The first page is our year-to-date for statistics for the library. We're doing something a little different this year. As you probably remember, the summertime is our busiest time of year. So we have high numbers, high programming, and as you can see, we have increases in every category that we typically track and provide to the community in this format. So we had a great summer after kind of a slow winter, so the numbers look very good. And we've based our budget requests on the services that we currently offer. So our 2024 budget request, as approved by the Library Board of Trustees, is $861,464. It's an increase of 4.88% from 2023, or $40,078. And I'll just go over the highlights and then I can answer any questions that you might have. For full-time and part-time wages, as Derek already told you, there's a 3% market adjustment added in our annual step increases. And our step increases are based on performance review. So I'd like to remind you of that. Line 44,200, tuition reimbursement. There is no tuition reimbursement requested for 2024. The student that we have been contributing 50% for her tuition costs is graduating in December. So that will end, and then there's no other requests from us. On the second page, we are budgeting for our minute taker. We're budgeting for 24 meetings next year at $75 per meeting. That's line 45350. The operating supply line 47120, those are the supplies that are specific to our department. So like book processing materials, spine labels, you have to use special tape on books, things like that. Also our access fee for OCLC, which is the way we catalog our books. That's been increased by $500, and I think what we're seeing is a real increase in costs now for things that, and we've seen some
supplies costing double what they were previously. Heading down to computers and communications, that's line 48450. We do still maintain our own line for computers, and Brian Ray did develop the budget for me, and that is increased by $6,570 for the needs that we have for 2024. So that's a big jump. Our heating oil line 50240 was decreased by $539 based on the reduced contracted costs for the next year. Our electric costs increased, but we had over budgeted for this year for some reason. Not sure what happened. So we based the increases on the balance at the end of 2022. Actually, that should say 2022. So that it didn't look too bad this year, so that's only $41 over the end balance at 2022. Telecommunications 50310 increased by $512, and that's some of that is because we just are adding 2 jet packs to our collection that we can circulate throughout the community for those families that don't have good internet access. So that's an addition. The last page, we have a request for more money for programming, and so we increased line 67100 by $700 so that we can better fund some of those programs and events that we are very proud of offering to our community. And in that area, we are also seeing a dramatic increase in costs for performers and lectures and things like that. 69100, our GMILKS line, and that is the dues that we pay to our consortium. We pay that every July. We also get a 3-time per week courier delivery, and that's how we move materials around within our consortium. So that was increased by $2,569, and that is based on what we just paid in July, and it really is an estimate until we get to budget development next year. They're on a totally different fiscal year than we are. 69200 electronic subscriptions and contracts. We've just added consumer reports online because we have high demand for consumer reports, and we lost our past online access through the state, so now we're paying for that ourselves. And we added money for that, also just a minor increase for increased costs. One of our services went up 16% already that we know of, so I tried to be very conservative with that increase. And that's what I have in my handout, and if you have questions for me or comments.
Do you guys want to do this one line by line, since it's a one-pager?
I just wanted to point out that the 4.88% increase, or $40,000, is actually $49,627. I don't know, I didn't figure out that because...
Did I do my math wrong?
No, you had a reduction of $9,549 in one line.
Yeah.
So when I look at that, I say that is something that's done away,
Yep.
right? So when you say it's a $40,000 increase, when you add that back in, it's really a $49,000 increase
Yeah.
because you're not using that, you're not doing that program.
Right. I understand what you're saying.
Oh, yeah,
Huh?
I see what you're saying. Do you guys want to do this one line by line, or do you want to do them all at once?
I'm gonna make other people wait, I don't care, whatever you wanna do, you're the boss.
It's a one-pager, I think.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do you want me to go
Yeah.
get your ruler?
Let's do it.
Do you need a ruler? Do you want me to go get you one? Okay. All right, first line, regular wages. Any questions on that? Regular wages part-time.
I understand wages weren't, and no increase in just the regular,
No additional staffing hours
Right.
at all.
so it was your 3% increase plus whatever
Plus step
steps,
increases, right.
which are determined, somebody get like 4 steps or,
No one can get more than one step.
okay.
But it's based on performance, so we budget for everyone to get a step, even if it turns out in April or May that they didn't perform enough. So that's where the savings would be, we wouldn't give them the step. So,
Does anyone have any questions on longevity, FICA, Medicare, or retirement? Can I know that those are all the same? Professional dues, it's budgeted the same. Tuition reimbursement, you saw that decrease. Employee development, any questions on that? Or travel expenses? Diane, for consulting services, we have $167.44 year to date. Do you have outstanding bills coming for that?
we have a legal invoice that will be coming.
Okay. Any questions on minute taker or office supplies? Okay. Operating supplies. Questions on that? Postage? Or photocopier contracts? Then what was the increase on the photocopier contract?
No increase.
None,
We
okay.
haven't changed that.
Did you get a revenue from that?
Yes, it comes to the town.
All right. Books and publications, any questions on that? Okay. Furniture and fixtures? Questions on that one? Computers and communications?
You budgeted 10,000 this year, but you've only used 3,500. You got something planned for the rest of the year?
What was planned is to replace our server this year, and instead, we've moved under the town network, so the server did not have to be replaced, and that's why there's unspent money there.
But I think what Pete is asking is it was unspent, but it's still an increase from 2023.
Right.
So is there,
Yes, well,
for
there.
next year, is there a plan?
Yes, there is a plan. I can give you I might have the details with me from Brian, if you want them.
Because it was budgeted at 10,400 this year, 10,500.
Yep.
Then you've only spent 3,500, but next year you're at 17,000.
Yes, that's correct. So for 2024, 7 desktops, 2 laptops should be replaced. We have to replace one of our printers, which is about $1,000. We have monitors that need to be replaced, $750. Our Microsoft Office costs are at $22,820, so we reimburse the town for that. Deep Freeze, which is our security for our public computers, that's $175. First Light, which is what is our costs for our email and our website. Not our website, that's going under the town, but that's at $68.40. Comcast, we're required to maintain an 828, that's for our elevator telephone, because that's copper. Verizon is at $1,200. Brian asked us to keep $120 for our website domain in there until we can get over that transition to the new town website. So I has it itemized for me here.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions on that? We have advertising, which is currently overspent, but you're not increasing the budget for 2024?
No, I feel very confident I won't have to hire any new people next year. So we spent a lot of money advertising because we had a turnover in staffing.
Any questions on mobile communication? Heating, electricity, water, or sewer? You know the deal with those. Telecommunications? Facility maintenance? Maintenance supplies? Programs? And then G-Milks or electronic subscriptions and contracts, which we heard about. Any questions overall on anything? Jim, do you have any questions?
No, I'm all set, thank you.
Plus you have you putting in the CRF, right?
Yes,
Which is how much?
$200,000.
Any other questions for Diane? Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you, Danny.
You too.
Okay, Adam, you're up again. Tab 5.
And I'm gonna hand it out too, sorry, I didn't get the packets here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Tab 5. So as I have in the past couple of years, I have an overview of the department as a whole. Bottom line is, department head request is up 6.5% on the expenditure side from last year. We've also got a slightly lower revenue projection, so the overall tax impact is a little bit more than that 6.5%. Cemeteries, I'm requesting a just over 4% increase. Highway and administration, just over 2.5%. And fleet maintenance at just over 18, but the numbers are a little bit deceiving there because we had due to a personnel leaving last year, as you may recall, we had a small reorg where we lost a full-time position in the admin side of the house, but we gained that position on the fleet side of the house. So really some of that money from fleet maintenance's increase is just budgeting for that shift between the two divisions. So no increase in full-time staff, just swapping which division.
You took the VACCON out of that
Paid
fleet
for it.
maintenance, right?
Yeah, the VACCON won't be hitting that line going forward. And then solid waste up almost 12%. Largely, on the next page I start to talk about some of the major cost drivers. Largely commodity based and cost of everything. As you might expect, we buy a lot of things and pay a lot of vendors, and none of those got cheaper over the last year. So kind of anything over $5,000 impact to the budget I've got here listed from largest to smallest. I'm sorry, that top column should be adjustment from 2023, not 2022. Typo already. Biggest impact is fuel. So we do go through a lot of fuel, both on highway side of things and solid waste with trucks running every day. So that's about $75,000 between both those two divisions in those budget lines. Recycling removal, as you probably recall, we've got a variable rate with our single stream recycling vendor, Casella. It is occasionally, hasn't been this way except for 1 month last year, hasn't been a revenue source for the town. Single stream has largely been a pay to dispose of type item. The goal for that program is to offset the cost of landfilling.
And we're sort of hovering under that. You know, it's about $5 to $8 less per ton right now for us all in to dispose of or to process single stream recycling than it would be to landfill that same material. So it's really not saving the town a huge amount at the moment, but it's kind of what we've locked ourselves into with curbside recycling. Anyway, there's an increase proposed for 2024 based on really where we sit now from a current cost per ton to dispose versus last year. To give you kind of an idea, rates on recycling this year have varied anywhere from $90 a ton down to the low 70s, upper 60s. So it does kind of fluctuate in that. Obviously, with 2,000 plus tons a year, it makes a pretty good difference when you're talking a couple bucks per ton. Wages, as I mentioned, no change. We've got 34.5 full-time equivalents. So that increase really is just the step and matrix adjustment that Derek talked about. Kind of combine these because it's all sort of the same neck of the woods, but fleet maintenance for the department is pulled out separately from the solid waste division fleet maintenance because they do have some pretty good maintenance costs as well. But then combine that with cutting edges and for highway and tires for the whole department. All those items lumped together, about $40,000. Consulting services, you see an increase there. We've tried to increase our roadside mowing primarily. If you drive around town, you'll notice it's getting pretty thick, especially as you get off the main roads, even the main roads. But it's really something we want to try to keep ahead of before it turns into trees that actually have to be notified and cut by a tree company rather than a roadside mower. So we're trying to put a little bit more money into the preventative maintenance end there. We've also we've got a company, USIC, that's marking our dig safe for the utilities, so that's a small increase there as part of that $22,000. Our tipping fees for solid waste, as you know, we've got a long-term contract for the trash end of things, and that goes up every year. That can vary slightly based on the cost of disposal of trash in New England. The Bureau of Labor Statistics kind of governs that, but per contract. But there is a floor of a couple percent. So based on that 3% estimate, that's our current contract rate for a good chunk of the year, and then the estimated rate for the second portion of the year. And that makes up $20,000. Household hazardous waste, as you recall, probably we've stopped accepting from out-of-towners. I think we're still starting to see the impact of that because we didn't implement that right on January 1st. Our first disposal of the year included a lot of material. We do this quarterly, so we accept all year round from residents now, which we always have, but we have it picked up quarterly, so we pay our bills 4 times a year. So that first quarter, I think, had a lot of material from out-of-towners still. But as we go on, I think I mentioned this, the program's becoming more and more known even among Goffstown residents. So it's a good thing. We want to see people pulling this material out of the waste stream or not dumping it down drains. So it's, in a way, it's good to see these numbers go up, but it's unfortunate because the budget's affected, of course. So we increased our rates for disposal slightly on this to try to make up some of the difference for what we pay. So there is a little bit of revenue coming in on the other side of the house, but as you know, we subsidize the first disposal of the year for all residents. So just based on our cost for pickup, that's going up about $16,000. Line striping and stencils, that's an item that we contract out. In the past couple of years with staffing issues, we've had to contract out more than we normally would have. So stop bars, crosswalks, the smaller handwork stencil type stuff, in addition to the long lines, the center lines, and the white edge lines on the main roads. So based on we've got a 3-year contract. Based on the contracted rates plus the amount of stencil work that we've done this year, I increased that a little bit. Gravel and stone, we were over budget. We are over budget already this year. We've got a fair amount of work with enclosed drainage, which eats up the stone pretty quickly. When you backfill, the pipes are surrounded by stone to promote drainage. But the more underground enclosed drainage you do, the more stone you eat through. And then when we have longer reclaim projects, we do also use some of our own reclaimed gravel on site, but sometimes we have to buy select gravel as well. So we've increased that line based on our actuals from this year. Bulky waste, that's, folks might know that as construction, demo, sometimes furniture as well, goes into that same, those same bins for disposal. So we can't take that to the landfill directly, we can't recycle that, that's all the stuff that has to be processed by others. Some of the construction demo, they do separate, but a lot of that doesn't end up landfill, but we have to deal with a separate contractor for that. So that's based on actuals. Tree removal and trimming, similar to roadside mowing. We don't have a ton of ability to say when a tree is going to get called in or fall down or be a danger falling on the road. So we're trying to be as proactive as we can with those, but every time you look up, there's something else dying off. So if you're really diligent about tree work, you're always going to find something that needs to be removed. So we're seeing our costs increase a little there. Electricity, as Derek mentioned, with the commodities has gone up. So that's for all our TPW facilities. And an increase in drainage repairs, just the backlog of smaller drainage projects, you know, a one-off or a ponding in somebody's driveway or runoff from a road that needs a little bit of a solution. We're trying to catch up with those, and the more of those we do, the more expensive that line gets, of course. Save the best news for last. The one major reduction I had was in salt. The current state contract is a bit cheaper than last year, so we got $7,000 in savings. Good news is we are coming into the winter with a full salt shed, so I hope not to spend any more for 2023 budget on salt, and then we'll hopefully get all the way to March before we spend any 2024s. That's a joke, but it would be nice. Okay, and then moving on to CIP.
Couple of questions before we go
sorry.
to CIP, if I could, Adam. Consulting services, roadside mowing, is lumped in there. Is that because of the invasive species? Why is that?
So this is everything, invasive species are paid for out of that line normally,
Okay.
but roadside mowing in particular is not. So we have the mower jump over the areas. We have a fairly decent map of all the knotweed locations. That's our big invasive roadside anyway. So we've got the knotweed called out, and then the mower is pretty adept. He does this for a lot of communities, so he's able to jump over. So as you drive through the roads now that are being mowed, some of the main roads in particular, Blackbrook Road is a good example. The contractor has mowed everything but the knotweed, so it really stands out. So you can see just kind of how big the problem is starting to get on a road like that. So those require some more attention, either chemical treatment or manual removal.
And a second question, if I could. On gravel and stone, how much of our own aggregate do we produce through crushing and separating? Just rough
Quite
percentage-wise.
a bit. It's thousands of tons.
Is it most of what we need, half of what we need? How much do we?
It is orders of magnitude larger than the gravel stone budget,
Okay.
for sure, but not of the budget, I shouldn't say that. I guess it's about 7 or 8 times the budget amount, but by volume it's quite a bit more because we're only paying, you know, we're kind of recycling that material that we've pulled out of roadsides and the rocks and the brick and concrete from others. So we're turning semi-waste product into a usable gravel that will be pretty close to passing a sieve analysis for a road base. So we're only paying, you know, I think it's like $1.60 or something a ton for the reclaiming process versus, you know, $10, $13.
So you're taking like non-structural off-spec stuff and converting it to?
That's right. We make 1.5 and 3-inch crushed gravel.
Yeah, thank you.
So if we were to buy that same material, it would be quite a bit more expensive. So we do tend to crush down our own pile as much as we can each year with that contract and then chew through it and
Thank
build
you.
the pile back up. So you kind of see this action with our piles over the year. They trade places.
Thank you.
All set for CIP? Okay. So for CIP, I've got a little bit less this year. 2023, we had $855,000 proposed. In 2024, we've got the 1992 Bombardier sidewalk machine that we had talked about a few weeks ago. We've got a long-term demo for purchase next year of that, so we're pretty excited about that machine. We've got a 2009 and a 1999 equipment trailer, 2 equipment trailers, I should say. We have 2 2006 message trailers. We've got 4 total now, so this would be to replace the 2 oldest. And we have a 2016 curbside truck for the solid waste division.
Good question. What are the 2009 and 1999 trailers? What are those?
Equipment trailers, so we've got one that's big enough for our heavier equipment. We'd like to be able to move our own dozer, so if we can get one that's got a decent ramp, then we can stop paying the towing fees for moving our dozer all around town. But it's we've got one that's heavy enough, but it just can't get up on.
Those are like dual axle flatbeds?
Right. And then we've got I think the 99, don't quote me on this, but I think the 99 is a landscaping trailer for cemeteries.
Didn't we just buy one of those?
We've got, I think, 7 total trailers, so we kind of cycle through. So I'll get more details. I don't have my trailer list with me tonight, but if you need to know. One of those is 30,000, I think, for the heavier, and then 25,000 estimated for the smaller.
There's no trash trailers on this.
No trash trailers this year, no. And then the other side of the house for projects and road plan, I just have 2 items. The road plan at the same 1.6 million, so no increase proposed. Thought about proposing an increase because things have gotten more expensive, but I think based on the bottom line budget, it's probably not the year for going back to the well. And then we've got our final year of the traffic signal modernization and upgrade program for Pinardville. So after this, hopefully right back where we started at Pinard Street, will be everything will be upgraded ADA conforming and monitored remotely. So if we have any issues, we can log in and see what's going on. Big ticket items, I guess I should mention for the road plan, hoping to get about 8% done if we can. We have some drop-offs from this year, Laurel, Ivy Wall, that neighborhood, Lindsay, Cernitas, and Sunbeam. We do still have the overlay and sidewalk work in Pinardville section of Mast Road and the Mountain Road overlay. We're hoping to get West Union, as we mentioned, either the last meeting or the meeting before when we were talking about the Invest New Hampshire grant and impact fees. So the West Union project with some new sidewalk there. Elm Street, we do have one section of Elm Street that's kind of been sort of a stepchild between the Main Street project and the Elm Street overlay. It's the little first stretch from Main Street to the pump station in the hollow there. And some sidewalk associated with that, as well as the far end outside of town of Worthley Hill and Tipping Rock. Not the Class 6 portion of Worthley, but keep going past Mountain Base. It's pretty rough.
Ferguson Road up that way?
Yes, yep. So those are the kind of big ticket items. I don't have any, as presently constituted anyway, any special article requests. I do want to maybe bend your ear as we get further closer to town meeting time about the possibility of talking about some discontinuances of farm roads and whether or not we want to pursue that or not.
What was that? I'm sorry.
Some of the old farm roads that we still maintain as public roads. We'd have to go through a formal discontinuance process if we're ever going to stop, and there's a few that have one residence on them that may make sense, may not, but before I spend too much time and effort on that one, and it'd be definitely a project with admin too for some of that. Want to know if that's something the board would like to pursue. So, but not for tonight. No, as of right now, no article requests. And the last page, I kind of do a breakdown. This one is based on 2022 valuations, which I know are old news now, but we don't have the new tax rate yet, so I used the 2022 valuation of the 2022 tax rate for a median home value, looking about a $7,000 tax bill based on the 22 rate. Of that, the town is about 33% of that, so about $2,300 goes to the town. Of the town's portion, about $700 goes to DPW. So for about $16 a year, we're getting the cemeteries and grounds taken care of, town common, Main Street areas, highway operations and admin and engineering, $294 a year, and that includes all the plowing and road work. Fleet maintenance, $57 a year. So that's both for DPW, but also the other emergency services, emergency response, Parks and Rec, and Town Hall. Curbside program, solid waste and hazardous waste disposal, $135 a year. which is a deal, because I have to pay for private hauling at my house, and that's like $60 a month, so I could pay my whole budget with what I pay for curbside at my house. Equipment and vehicle, capital investment, $67 a year, and then road projects, capital investment, $142 a year, so I think it's money well spent, so hopefully we get support as always.
Adam, for the sidewalk maintenance,
Yes.
it's page 15 of 28,
Okay.
line 60, 120.
Yep. So, we've got a pretty good outstanding bill on that one for the East Union Street mixed-use sidewalk. So once that's paid, that's pretty much gonna be topped out.
Okay, that was my question. And then what's the encumbrance again?
That one, we had some money encumbered for Mass Road sidewalks from 2022. Some of that's gone to the Main Street portion. We did have to reset a bunch of sidewalk and do some tip downs on, not Main Street, did I say Main Street? South Mast. Along that stretch, but, so we've got the East Union part and then the,
So those encumbered funds will be
South
used up?
yep.
Okay. Another one. The clothing and uniforms across the board, were those consolidated, or why are they all?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for the question. I did. I can
I'm sorry, they're in every section, general
Oh,
funds.
okay.
It's up kind of near the
44,
top with
waste
the
operations.
personnel items. I did zero out all the divisions and add them into the highway admin line.
Okay.
Probably spending an inordinate amount of time trying to break apart the bills, and we end up buying a lot of logo gear for the whole crew, so it's definitely easier to manage if it's just coming out of one line.
I would suggest putting that in your presentation for your budget, for the budget committee. Towing expenses, I'm on page 16, line 53, 320.
Yes. Ugly line.
Yeah, what's going on there?
So, we had a couple of things happen. A couple of large repairs that required us towing from the garage to the dealerships for solid waste equipment in particular. We also had a breakdown of the solid waste tractor in Franconia, which was a pretty large towing bill to get back from there. Luckily, he was unloaded and not loaded, because that gets real nasty if gonna get a trailer dumped as well. But we also had, shamedly, probably 5 or 6 times, a big combination of new staff and new plow routes. We had a few people get stuck on their route in the middle of the winter. So probably a little higher than normal with a lot of change up, both in the drivers and the routes they were on. So definitely a tough year for towing.
And then just below under solid waste operations, line 4530. What is that consulting line for exactly, and why is it increasing so much?
Okay, so for solid waste consulting, that takes care of our landfill mowing, our pest treatments at the landfill and at the transfer station, our monitoring well sampling at the landfill, scale, annual certification and inspection of our scale as required, because it's, you know, a weights and measures type thing, and then fire alarm at the transfer station.
Okay. So if we go, so first, what's the encumbered 3,000?
So that is for mowing, landfill mowing, which hasn't been done yet.
Okay.
We're actually supposed to do it twice a year, but we're having a hard time keeping up with that. The same contractor that does our roadsides, in theory, does the landfill. We may have to talk about splitting that off because he's having a hard time getting to it all.
Okay. And then what's left in the budget? Because we're budgeted at 85, but we're only at like.
Yeah. So that's like 68 if you, the encumbrance plus the expended amount. I'd have to take a look and see. This was, you know, it's as year to date as of September 30th, but usually for us, bills from September can roll in you know,
Okay.
after, so I'd have to take a look. If I had to guess, some of the water sampling, the monitoring well sampling hasn't been paid yet. Potentially pest treatment and our annual alarms, I don't think have been paid for, or have been paid at that point for transfer, so I can take a
Okay.
look on that.
I just was curious on if that will be, that increases, makes sense, since we're not even close right now. And then just below that, household hazardous waste. So we changed who could drop off household hazardous waste, so are we, how well projected is that number for actual dumping?
It's tough. You know, this, I think this 23-8 was only 2 pickups for, as of this date when these were closed out. So we're probably going to be even worse off than the 32, but I'm trying to undershoot a little because of that lag of the no longer allowing non-residents in.
So you think with the less volume, it's gonna cost more money?
So I think it's competing. So I think I've been under budgeting. As you look, I was 13,000 under from actuals in 22. Then we made the change to go resident only, but there's a lag time. So I think it's going to be less than the 37 I spent last year, if you get what I'm saying. But
Okay.
it's still going to be higher than what we have been budgeting.
Wasn't there offsetting revenue? And we don't have that offsetting revenue now, do we? Not as much, because we're not taking outside stuff.
Yeah, correct. So it's, you know, ideally, unfortunately what happens with pulling in resident only is we're subsidizing that first visit. So by cutting off the out-of-towners, we cut off the revenue source right from the get-go, you know, from them. So we do subsidize the first drop-off. It's about 100 pounds, but so there is a revenue, to answer the question, but it's unfortunately when we cut out the out-of-towners.
That's what I'm saying, we lost all that other revenue, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we've been underfunding, we've been under-collecting, I should say, on the revenue end anyway, so the program is a net loss for the department.
And then, the last one for now, page 17, line 53, 450, equipment rental. What did we rent this year?
Okay, so for this
Rent all
one,
kinds of stuff.
in solid waste, right, page 17?
Yeah, I just mean for this
So
particular.
we've been renting a lift in the winter to clean off the solid waste
Snow,
trailers.
yeah.
We're hoping to be able to phase that out though, because we have been speccing, our new trailers have a flat top rather than the old trailers had a weird coffered, almost coffered ceiling look to them, which trapped snow and ice and then would melt and turn into ice in every single pocket. And then, of course, if that goes flying out, you're going to kill somebody on the highway. So we've, and between that and the safety of our driver, who has to get up and clean that off at 5:30 in the morning on a snowy winter day, potentially, you probably wouldn't want to see how that was being done. So we tried to mitigate the risk factor of that by renting a lift. And then when we have it, we try to use it for changing lights, cleaning buildings, that kind of stuff. We pressure washed last year while we had it when it's got a little warmer. So we have been using that, but with the new specs, cycling out the trailers, and we're actually going to try to get a sort of a fixed brush type setup that might be able to get the 90% solution, and then some sort of an inspection a ladder sort of thing that we can clean from there, rather than have to rent equipment all winter long again. The other thing that we had to rent this past year was a mini excavator. We had a backhoe go down for an extended period of time waiting on a cylinder that the dealer didn't have. So while we had that out, we were renting a mini for the construction demo pile in particular.
That was up on Bog Road for a while.
Different one, yep.
But you had a rental up there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions? Jim, do you have any questions for Adam?
No, I'm good, thank you. All set.
Do you have any questions?
No, we're good.
All set for now.
Okey-doke. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
did that. Derek, do you have anything else outstanding? I think we went through all of your administrator stuff.
Correct, no, I'm all set.
Anyone else? Okay, at this time, we'll open it up for our final non-public comment for the evening.
No, our public comment.
Oh, yeah, public, sorry, I was reading the next line. Public comment for the evening. Is there anyone who would like to speak at public comment?
Hello. Pam Boyer, 22 Gorham Pond Road. Let me just sign in here. All right, sorry, I'm a little late for public comment. I guess there was some comment about me earlier today. I apologize for not being here to defend myself at that time, but I was attending a school board meeting. But as you heard earlier in public comment, there was a personal attack on me, asking me to step down from my position as a Parks and Rec Commissioner. Tonight's attack stemmed from a personal text conversation between myself and State Representative Joe Alexander. This conversation occurred back in May. And it was regarding a recent youth suicide and anti-LGBTQ legislation. Discussions that were happening in the State House at that time, again, back in May. This had nothing to do with my role as a commissioner, but as a community member, communicating with the state representative about my concerns and asking him to do better for the sake of the youth in our community. I will always defend the LGBTQI+, A+ youth in our community, and I will always stand up for our community members. I'm here to say that these personal, politically motivated attacks on community members that are continuously initiated by the same group of individuals, which include our state representatives, needs to stop. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak at public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment. And at this time, we'll take a motion.
Motion to go into non-public under RSA 91-A:3, 2A, promotion and compensation, and C, adversely affecting reputation other than a board member.
Second.
Motion by Peter, seconded by Mark. Roll call, Jim?
Yes.
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 Okay, well, this will end our public portion of tonight's meeting. Thank you for joining us.